Elite Facts presents
8 scary Italian horror movies you need to watch. 8. Zombie 2. Let's start the list with the most obvious film, Zombie 2, otherwise known as Zombie and Zombie Flesh Eaters. Zombie 2 was made as a simple cash grab to cash in on the success of George A. Romero's recent hit, Dawn of the Dead, which is known as Zombie all over Italy. Although this film started off the whole unofficial sequel fiasco during the 1980s, Zombie 2 is one of the very few films that has earned the right of being called a true sequel to the film series they're adding to. Zombie was made by Lucio Fulci and was intended as a sequel to Dawn of the Dead. This film uses very similar themes with how the zombies act, but changes the setting to the Caribbean. Because of this change in scenery, this allowed Fulci to give the film a sort of voodoo vibe, as it's implied that these zombies have returned to life due to some sort of black magic. This film is known for some of its brutality, but more importantly, it was able to have a scene in the film where a zombie fights a shark underwater. We've mentioned this scene multiple times in a few of our lists, but it's a very noteworthy scene because, as silly as it sounds, the scene itself shows how dangerous the undead can be by showing it take on one of Earth's natural predators. That and saying zombie versus shark is really enough to sell tickets to people.
7.
Suspiria. Okay, before we move forward, we just need to say that Dario Argento is going to appear multiple times over the course of this list. Fulci and him are pretty much the kings of the Italian horror film genre, if it can even be classed as a genre. Anyway, Suspiria may be the most artistically beautiful horror film to come out of Italy, and technically Germany, due to the film's setting and filming location. The film is centered around a girl by the name of Susie Banyan, played by Jessica Harper, who is an American ballet student who transfers to a prestigious dance academy in Germany. Upon her arrival, she quickly realizes that the academy is a front for something far more sinister and supernatural, as many of her classmates disappear over the course of the film's runtime. Even though this film has some pretty gruesome segments like the barbed wire room scene, it still manages to look beautiful as the film is presented with vibrant colors during its darker segments, while managing to keep the atmosphere consistently creepy throughout the film. Also, Goblin, who are known for creating the soundtrack to George A. Romero's Dawn of the Dead, also score the soundtrack for this film, and it's pretty damn great. Unfortunately, Suspiria is receiving a remake this year starring Dakota Johnson, Chloe Grace Moretz, and Tilda Swinton, and with Harper returning in a secondary role. Hopefully, this is one of the rare instances in which a remake of a horror film turns out good.
6.
Demons. Another Dario Argento film? Sure, why not? Demons is technically classed as a zombie film, although takes a rather unique and refreshing approach to what was an already saturated genre. Even though these creatures are literally demons, I mean, it's literally the title of the film, they function very similarly to zombies in a sense that when you're bitten or scratched by one of these creatures, you will become one of them and join the hordes. The interesting thing about this film is how they use media in bringing these demons into reality, like how the first film, a bunch of unlucky citizens are given preview tickets to see the latest blockbuster horror film entitled Demons. Yep, they went there. With the film being screened at a new cinema renovated from an old Gothic structure, the main character, Cheryl, and her best friend decide to skip music class to see the movie. One of the filmgoers ends up accidentally cutting their face on a mask in the lobby. Although just seeming like a promotional item for the film, the mask is linked to the film. When the film starts playing, the woman's cut begins triggering off her transformation into one of the film's demons. From there on out, it's just carnage.
5.
Phenomena. Dario Argento does it again with yet another fantastic film to add to his resume. So, Suspiria was a very colorful and yet darkly lit film that gave us quite a unique yet scary atmosphere. Phenomena, on the other hand, which is also known in other countries as Creepers, goes for a classic approach by having dark blues, grays, and browns for its environments and lighting. Even though this stylistic choice is a drastic departure from Argento's other films like Suspiria and Inferno, it still manages to maintain a pretty damn creepy atmosphere. Phenomena is set in Switzerland and follows a teenager by the name of Jennifer Corvino, daughter of a famous actor, and she arrives in an expensive boarding school and shares her room with a French schoolmate, Sophie. Jennifer is a sleepwalker, is capable of telepathically communicating with insects, and has adaptation problems in the new school. While sleepwalking, she meets and becomes friends with a Scottish entomologist, Professor John McGregor, and his chimpanzee, Tonga. Jennifer decides to help the investigation of Dr. McGregor about a criminal who's executing young girls in that area. This film is a must-see for any fans of the horror genre. Definitely check it out. Fun fact, did you know that the plot to Philomena directly inspired the Super Famicom game Clock Tower?
4,
The Beyond. Considered by many to be Lucio Fulci's greatest work, The Beyond is the second film in Lucio Fulci's Gates of Hell trilogy, with City of the Living Dead being the first and The House by the Cemetery being the last. The film follows native New York resident Liza Merrill, who inherits an old hotel in Louisiana where, following a series of supernatural accidents, she learns that the building was built over one of the entrances to hell. Now, the plot seems pretty basic enough, but what accompanies the film is the dark and brooding atmosphere that's quintessential when it comes to Fulci's work. Definitely check this one out.
3,
Black Sunday. So, quick break from Argento and Fulci, we have an Italian horror film from way back in 1960, directed by Mario Bava, called Black Sunday, otherwise known as The Mask of Satan and Revenge of the Vampire. The plot revolves around a witch who was also a vampire who was executed over 200 years ago. Princess Asa Vajda is then resurrected when two travelers, Professor Thomas Kuruvajan and Dr. Andrei Gorobek, accidentally disturb her abandoned tomb. At the time of her execution, the princess swore vengeance against her accuser, her brother, and all of his descendants. She quickly resurrects her lover and turns Kuruvajan into her vampire servant. When she learns that the present-day Princess Kasia is identical to her, she sets out to get control of the young woman. This film is without a doubt one of the most atmospheric films, not only just on this list, but one of the most atmospheric films in the horror genre in general. Not bad for a film that's nearing 60 years old, huh?
2,
Black Sabbath. Mario Bava makes another appearance on this list with his anthology film Black Sabbath. This film contains 3 stories. The Drop of Water concerns a nurse who steals a ring off a dead spiritualist only to have the corpse seek revenge. The Telephone features a prostitute who's terrorized by phone calls from a dead client. The Wordalak stars Boris Karloff as a vampire who feeds on the blood of his loved ones. We'll be honest, describing each story in depth wouldn't do the film any justice. If you're into Italian horror films, this is most certainly one you should check out. It's a complete necessity. Fun little fact, this film is so iconic that legendary heavy metal band Black Sabbath named themselves after it.
1,
Inferno. Wow, how many times is Dario Argento going to appear on this list? Well, to be fair, when it comes to Italian horror films, it's either his name or Lucio Fulci's name that is brought up. We'll have to make a part 2 in the future to showcase other directors. Anyway, Inferno is considered by many people to be a spiritual sequel to Argento's previous film, Suspiria, as they both have a similar premise. This one focuses on a young poetess by the name of Rose Elliott, who buys a book from a local antique dealer, a diary in Latin of an architect, E. Varelli. She learns of the 3 mothers and believes her apartment building is one of their houses. She pleads with her brother Mark, who is studying musicology in Rome, to come because she's afraid. Mark's friend Sarah reads her letter, which is left behind in class, and discovers that the school is run by the Mater Lacrimarum and is disposed of for this knowledge. The house of Mater Suspiriorum has already been destroyed, and by the time Mark arrives in New York City, he's investigating his sister's murder. So you can see the similarities between Inferno and Suspiria, what with it focusing on a gifted young person in a certain form of art and having to deal with the supernatural horrors that lie ahead of them. Much like Suspiria and any of Argento's other work, the cinematography in this film is just outstanding, as it takes a similar approach to Suspiria with the bright colors while also maintaining a dark atmosphere. Only this film takes that and turns it up to 11. This film just looks stunning. Tell us what Italian horror films you like in the comments section below. We'd love to hear about other cult classics. Thanks for watching.
Don't forget to like us and subscribe for more Elite Facts.